A challenge that I think a lot of professionals, executives, and entrepreneurs face is the fear of presenting an idea or maybe delivering a message. Now, that could be one-on-one, maybe in a boardroom, or it could be to a much larger audience. But this fear, it often stems from worrying about maybe damaging your credibility or the fear of social rejection. But here's the good news. You can overcome this fear and you can set yourself apart by mastering the art of charismatic communication. So what if I told you that by just focusing on 3 key aspects, you can transform your communication skills, leave a lasting impression on your audience, and in the process, you will become more charismatic? Well, that's what we're going to look at in this video. I'm going to share with you a 3-part formula that I've learned, and I suppose developed, but this has come from working with some of the best communicators in the world for over the last decade. So I'm sure that you've had the experience of that public speaking anxiety. Maybe you felt your heart starting to race, that your palms have got really sweaty before a presentation. Maybe you found yourself delivering a presentation and you've been stumbling over your words. It could be that you've been in a position where you're up on stage or in front of a room and you can feel that your message is being misinterpreted. You then find yourself having to backtrack to try and explain, or maybe even worse, you've ended up losing the audience completely. You've lost the room completely. Now, as somebody who has performed thousands of live shows, this has happened to me, and it is a horrible feeling when it does. But all of these fears, they are common fears. But these fears can get in the way of your professional growth and your ability to become a master communicator and to be able to lead and influence effectively. So if we look at a real world example, let's take Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. He was renowned for his charismatic presentations. His speeches, they were not just about delivering information. His presentations, his speeches, they were about creating an experience for the audience. Now, Steve Jobs utilized 3 things: confidence, energy, and contrast to keep his audience engaged and inspired. Now, according to a study by Quantified Communications, charismatic speakers like Steve Jobs are 58% more effective in persuading their audience compared to their less charismatic counterparts. So these 3 things are what I have seen in all great communicators that I've worked with at conferences around the world. And it's also things that I've observed in those people, maybe through TV and other media, that I have observed as I've been trying to improve my communication skills on my journey to becoming a professional public speaker. So let's dive into the tips. So the first part is confidence. Confidence is key. Now, when I talk about confidence, I mean both in your voice and your body. You want to sound certain in the words that you're saying, and at the same time, you want to be displaying confident body language to back up those words. Somebody who isn't confident, they might make themselves smaller, they might start to hunch over, whereas somebody who is confident, they're going to allow their body language to take up space, and their body language is going to be a lot more open. Imagine that you've got a superhero's cape on. That's probably the easiest visual that you can get straight away inside your mind. But you also want to be using your voice with absolute certainty so that your words land powerfully, making the people that you're speaking to believe in what you're saying. Now, here's the thing, the voice and the body, they go hand in hand. They work together. When we gesture, it changes the way that we say the words. It changes how they sound and how they feel. Now, the one big challenge that I know that you're going to face, and this comes from working with thousands of people, is that the moment that you start to use your voice and your body differently, it's going to feel initially, it's going to feel like you're being inauthentic. And some of the people that you know, they might even start to comment on why you're speaking differently, why you're acting differently, but you need to push through this until it becomes part of who you are. When we start to work on our confident voice and body, it's a bit like a new pair of shoes. They do need breaking in. So the second part of this charismatic communication puzzle is energy and enthusiasm. Now, I am not talking about jumping up like you've had 7 cans of Red Bull or way too many cups of coffee that morning. By energy, I mean your passion and your enthusiasm for what you are speaking about, the message that you are trying to communicate. You need to be conveying enthusiasm in your message, and this is important because if you're not enthusiastic about your message, your topic, then why should your audience be? And you want to be dialing up or down your energy depending upon the audience size. For one-on-one interactions, you want to probably dial it down slightly, otherwise you're going to be too overwhelming for people. But for a large audience, especially if you're on stage, you want to be dialing your energy up more. You want to be bringing more enthusiasm. Your energy is going to make your message more compelling. Now, a really good example of this, now just I'm going to say this, despite what happened with Chris Rock, think about Will Smith. He is a master at using energy and enthusiasm to captivate his audience. His ability to connect with his people through his passionate delivery has made him a really charismatic communicator who is able to literally take an audience and put them into the palm of his hand. The third and the final part of this little charismatic communication triangle is contrast. Now, when I say that, this one often surprises people, especially when I share it at workshops. People think that this final part is going to be something completely different. But when a speaker can use contrast effectively, the audience, they start to lean in. They start to become captivated by the message. Now, contrast in your delivery style, this can include varying your volume. It could be changing the speed at which you're talking. It could be adding different elements to keep your audience engaged. For example, during this video, I've been moving, I've been gesturing. At points I've leant in, at points I've added pauses, and there have been, I know that during the editing, we've added visuals up onto the screen. These changes, they keep you engaged. And I'm just gonna go a little bit nerdy here as to why this contrast thing is so important. You see, our brain, it's constantly trying to save energy. So when it thinks that it can predict what is going to happen next, it will use that energy to focus on something else, which in communication means that it stops focusing on you. So by adding contrast, we keep the brain engaged by stopping it predicting what it thinks is going to happen. This is why being monotone is a really dangerous place to be in communication. Now, there was a study that was done by the Harvard Business Review that found that speakers who use a varied tone of voice are perceived as more dynamic and more interesting. So to recap, the 3 tips are confidence, energy, and contrast. If you incorporate these 3 elements into the way that you communicate, I guarantee you that you will communicate better with others. Your message, it is going to be received more positively, and you're going to be more memorable as a communicator. So I'd love you to get out there, give it a try, let me know how it goes in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.